You're listening to the Femcast podcast, the podcast for women who are truly ready to break free from toxic relationship patterns, choose themselves, and become a magnet for the healthy love they deserve. Let's do this. This podcast is listener discretion advised for mature content and coarse language. Whatever. Hey guys, what is up? And welcome back to the show. I am so excited and grateful to have you guys here. Welcome if you're new. Today is part 3 of the Feminine Awakening edition, Rebel, Rise, and Radiate. Please stop calling feminists angry feminists. And maybe you haven't, and maybe that's why you're here and you're listening to this episode. But the world has got to stop calling us feminists angry feminists, or portraying us and labeling us as angry feminists. Today we're going to talk about the truth about feminism, women, safety, and the masculine. And if you haven't listened to the masterclass episode yet, or the last couple of episodes, go listen to them now. There is actually a link in the show notes that'll give you access to all of the episodes within this playlist. So there's going to be 6 in total. One is the masterclass, which is the 9 sacred feminine superpowers, and then followed by 5 more episodes about how, our evolution and healing the masculine and the feminine within, and how we learn to embody our feminine more. So, sorry, I'm getting notifications. Okay. I've heard many people say this, feminists are just a bunch of angry feminists, right? Just portraying us as these angry women who go around hating on men, which, yeah, you know what? Maybe there is some of those, but not all of us are like that. And I think that, this is, again, I hate to say this, but I think this is more patriarchal conditioning that is basically making women feel bad for being a feminist, or wanting to deter women from being a feminist. Because if you're a feminist, then, no one's going to love you. No one's going to want you. You're never going to be, you're going to die a lonely cat lady, as some people would love to call us. By the way, I don't have cats. Just saying. It is more patriarchal conditioning to keep women and the feminine in a disempowered state. Now, I don't know if they're doing this consciously or unconsciously or subconsciously, but I don't know. I'm finding it very hard to believe that they don't know what they're doing when they do this. It's like, it's the equivalent of and I see this all the time. It's like, somebody steps into their power and suddenly you make them feel like that's somehow bad or punishable, or they're going to be alone if they do that, or no one's going to love them or want them. Like, who's going to want somebody like you, right? Or it's like the person who, someone hurts you and does a bad thing, and then when you call them out, you become the bad guy. No. Okay, we have to start to be a little bit, I'm not talking about being guarded. I am not talking about being hateful or resentful towards men. I am telling you guys, there are many amazing men out there who love being in their heart space and who love opening their hearts up to women. Many. And they are out there. But unfortunately, part of our task is to be able to discern between the two. Okay, because they're not all like that. Just like not all women are good women. Like, we're just people. We're people. There are good people and there are bad people. And the reality is we need to be able to discern between the two. And there's nothing wrong with that. And we need to be able to kind of stand up for ourselves and be in our strength and set our boundaries and be able to ask for what we want without being ashamed for that. Like being shamed for that, So here's the thing. Here's what I will say about the feminist movement and the healing that took place as a result. Because, I heard this from a coach. I heard a coach say this, that, that's why when you see feminists, they're all so angry. They're angry. Their hearts are closed off to men. They've completely closed off to the masculine, And it's like, because, and at first, he kind of said, it's because of, centuries of being oppressed and raped. And stoned and burned at the cross and but those days are it's kind of like saying like those days are done, like kind of like been there, done that, get over it, and then kind of went on in one of his what's it called, live events, making a woman who was a rape victim look at a total stranger of a man and say, you need to be able to see the God in him, which is true. We all have God within. I believe that we do. But I'm not about to tell a rape victim to open her heart to a total stranger and say, hey, you need to feel safe with this dude, even though you have no idea who he is. You haven't no, we don't do that. We have to recognize two things. There are good people on this earth and there are bad people on this earth. And that is just the way it is. Okay? There are good energies and there are bad energies. And we still need to practice discernment. Okay? And we need to be able to call out when we're not being treated fairly, when we're, we've gotten the short end of the stick, when our boundaries aren't being respected, when we're, not given the opportunity to be fully expressed and to be fully ourselves, when we're being discriminated against just for being women, because it's still happening. And we get to say something about it, and we get to say something and not feel bad about it, and can still be open-hearted, loving women to the right person. Okay. Again, discernment. There was another point I was going to make to this. Oh, that was the other point. And the reality is because we have good, but we have both good and bad people on the planet, and we're all just kind of here, kind of dwelling together. And I'm joking, but this is not a joke. There is still a ton of violence and crime that goes on against women. Okay, women are attacked, raped, and brutally abused every day just for being women. And I am not saying that lightly. Listen, we've come a long way, yeah, but we are not out of the woods yet. I'm going to read my notes now because I want to make sure that I don't misquote something. So globally, okay, and I check these stats with, online with Google and with ChatGPT, but globally, 1 in 3 women will experience physical or sexual violence at the hands of a man. And most of those will be from an intimate partner. Now, if that doesn't make you crap your pants, I don't know what will. Okay? That accounts for approximately, get this, a staggering 641 million women. Okay? None of this accounts for the ones that go unreported, because the reality is that and I've been here where you got abused, whether it was emotional. For me, it was more emotional abuse. It wasn't so much physical abuse, but I have had my fair share of what do you want to call it? Like physical assaults, like sexual assaults, like not rape, but where I was like groped inappropriately or propositioned inappropriately by somebody like much older than me when I was a child, or when I was at work and it was my boss, or, when it was a total stranger groping me, like at random and a crowded club, you know what I mean? Like roofing my drink. These things happen, and I've experienced them, and all of my friends have experienced them. We all have, and it is still not a safe world for women. And we need to all, men and women, we need to actually say it. We need to actually call it out and say, hey, this is still not a safe world for a woman to be in. And we need to make it safe. So for all the men out there that are like, preaching that, it's just, women are holding on to too much anger, they need to open their hearts. What are you going to do to make a safe world for women? Because we all need to be doing that. And if I'm going to be called an angry feminist because I'm doing my part in doing that, then so fucking be it. Call me an angry feminist. Go for it. But I am literally, I've done a lot of work, you guys. Like, I did have a lot of healing to do because, like I said, I was, mistreated a lot by men. I was objectified a lot by men, especially when I was younger and even when I was older and kind of making my way in my career and in the workplace, I was objectified by men again and again and again, and I had a lot of healing to do around that. And it really took a lot of work for me to be able to open my heart up again, and feel safe. And you know what? The only way I do that now is through a lot of discernment, and really being able to really assess who those safe spaces are, and really trusting and honoring what my intuition is telling me, and being unapologetic about when it's telling me this isn't safe. And it happened a couple months ago when I was out there online dating again, where somebody just kept trying to get me alone, and I was like, listen, dude, not gonna happen. Okay. I move at a glacial pace, deal with it. Okay. I am not going to be alone with a total stranger. That's just not how I do shit anymore. Maybe that's how I did shit when I was younger, but I know me. I know myself. I value myself, and I value, what I bring to the table in a relationship, emotionally, mentally, physically, energetically. And I'm not going to put myself in a situation where, I'm in a quiet place with you until I know for sure who you are and what you're all about. Because, 1 in 3 women, guys, 1 in 3 women, and most of them are from intimate partners. So, and this person just did not understand it. Couldn't understand why I kept putting up boundaries. Couldn't understand why I kept saying, I prefer if we meet in a public place. I prefer if, whatever. Couldn't get it. So I cut it off very quickly. I think by the second or third date, I cut it off. Or before the third date, I cut it off as we were getting ready for our third date, I think. And I was like, no, I'm not playing this game, and and it's not because we're angry. Anger has nothing to do with it. It's about being honest about, the world we live in, and being able to discern and set boundaries as we need to, and being really clear and upfront about what we need in order to feel safe. So until we can create a safe world where it's not dangerous out there just because you're a woman, and because you have long hair, or because you're wearing a short skirt, or because, you're wearing whatever. This is how I choose to move through the world. I choose to move through the world knowing that there are amazing men out there. And I've met so many of them who have open hearts, who are willing to love and respect a woman, to open their heart to her, and let her open her heart to him, and being able to be in this intimate, beautiful exchange with them. And also, being able to hold that safe space, hold that structure, hold that foundation, right? And being able to recognize that not all men are like that. And that's fine. It's the evolution that we're moving through. But I'm still going to go out there, and I'm going to practice discernment. I'm going to practice setting up boundaries. I'm going to practice expressing my truth unapologetically. I'm going to practice, asking for what it is that I need to feel safe in a relationship. And if that's going to be met with pushback, then yeah, you are going to see an angry feminist. I hate to say it, but it's what it is. And I'm okay with that. I'm totally okay with that. But, I kind of digress. So, let's go back, because we talked about this a little bit last week, and I want to kind of touch back on this a little bit again. The feminist movement in general, women who identified as feminists, yes, many of them were angry. And to this coach's point, yes, we were healing through a lot of generations of trauma and abuse and persecution and oppression, and sexual violence against women. But like I said, we're not done. We're still here. It's different now. It's a little bit more socially acceptable trauma, right? And I'm laughing, but it's not funny. When people say, yeah, but you know what? We don't live in those times anymore. It's but we do. The crimes just look different. But women are still being persecuted for being women, and still being assaulted just for being women. And, when I'm walking down the street, if I look a certain way, if I walk a certain way, if somebody's around who thinks they have rights or access to my body, they will take it, and and it even happens to men. And it actually happens more to men that we even know, because majority of men won't report it. Because why? Because they're not safe being in their feminine. Huh? Gee, I wonder. Even this whole thing about like how you're hearing online, like I've heard so many people say this, like there's like this movement of like how men are falling behind and women are getting ahead. And it's like, well, maybe that's because men have not been able to access their emotional experience. Maybe that's because we need to do a better job as a society to create a safer environment for men to feel and heal a lot of the emotions that they're holding on to that keeps them angry at women. Hold that thought, you guys. We're going to get right back to it. But first, if you've been vibing with this episode, let me drop a little something in your lap that's going to change everything. It's my free Feminine Awakening series and masterclass, a 6-part audio experience designed to help you unlock your sacred feminine superpowers so that you can put an end to overthinking, overgiving, people-pleasing, and feeling burnt out and invincible all the time. Instead, you're going to learn how to trust your intuition instantly, radiate confidence without force, and just feel magnetic as fuck in every room instantly. And because I want this to go deeper than just your typical surface level inspirational stuff, I'm also giving you daily affirmations and journal prompts that I myself have used on my journey so that you can embody this energy every single day and create real and lasting change. It's free, it's powerful, and it's waiting for you. The link is in the show notes. Grab it as soon as this episode is done. All right, that's enough, you guys. Now back to today's episode. Maybe, right? Maybe the healing's on both sides of the aisle. Sorry, but like, yes, women have had to heal a lot, and a lot of us are moving through the healing right now, and we're in the thick of it, and many of us have done most of the work, and some of us are just getting started. And it doesn't matter where you are on the journey, but the important thing is that it's not just our work to do. It's the work of humanity as a whole. We all need to heal and be more comfortable being in our feminine and create a safe environment for the feminine to thrive. Safety is key. So that's what we're going to talk about. Next is, when we created this feminist movement and, we started to lay down, it wasn't about anger towards men. It was about creating equality among the sexes. It was about never again discriminating on the basis of sex, right? And creating a world where, whether man or woman, you had equal access to voting rights, equal access to career, to financial pay, to owning property, to having a bank account. Like, these were the rights that we were fighting for as women. Okay. We were fighting for our right to vote, our right to be heard, our right to have a job, to work, to enter the workforce, to go to school, to get a degree. This is what feminist was about. Okay. Were there some angry women in there? Sure. Yeah, there were. There were a lot of angry women. There still are. But you know what? Here's the thing. As I said before in the last episode, trauma needs safety to heal. So what happened, I think, when we created this safe container for the feminine to be reborn, what we saw was just how fucking angry she was of all the oppression, the discrimination, the abuse, the persecution that women have experienced for centuries. And so a lot of women, what you saw was and you're still seeing it today. It's not done yet. What you're seeing is this mass purge, like this generational purge of past wounds that we've been through in our lineage and past lifetimes that is just literally being unleashed on the planet all at once. So what you're actually seeing as angry feminists is actually an outpouring of the grief, of the rage, of the anger, of the pain, of, all of the oppression and the abuse that we've lived through again and again and again for centuries. And I can attest to this. I literally, and we'll talk about this in episode 6, but, when the feminist movement, which was about creating equality within the government, within our schools, within our communities, within our institutions, that created that safe container for the feminist, the feminine that was wounded, that was hurt, that was angry, that was full of rage, to be let out and to process all of that stored emotion. My methods, if you've worked with me, you know, my methods is, emotional alchemy and emotional energetics. We move through unprocessed pain and trauma that's stuck in the body, that's stuck in the energy field. We help you to move through that, and we help you to process that in a safe way, in a nurturing way, in a way that doesn't feel uncomfortable or scary, and so that you could let it all out, let it be, and then move on and tapping into the emotion that's going to help you create what you want in your life. This is essentially what's happening on a collective scale with the feminine. Literally. Like, we're moving through and processing generations of emotions, stored trauma that we've been holding on to for centuries. I said centuries one too many times. But you know what I mean? Like, and so I get so frustrated when people just go around and start labeling off all feminists as angry feminists. Like, we're not. And if we are, that's part of the healing too. And that's okay. And so, ridiculing women for being angry about oppression that's still happening, for being angry about violence against women that still goes on today. Like, we're not out of the woods, you guys. Like, I'm so sick and tired of people talking about it like it's something that happened in the past and we need to get over it. Oppression still exists. Systemic oppression still exists. Violence against women still exists. It's in the stats. 1 in 3 women will experience some sort of sexual or physical violence from a man, and most of them will be from an intimate partner. These are real statistics, you guys. Like, and I'm not saying this to fearmonger you. I'm saying this because we fucking still have work to do. So go ahead, call me an angry feminist if you so choose. By all means, go for it. I will continue to do this work, to speak up for women's rights, to speak up for women's rights and for the rights of and the safe container for the feminine to be in her beauty and her power and in her creative life force energy that she was put on this earth to be. I will continue to fight for both of those. And I will continue to be a safe space for women who want to do this healing. And I will continue to be this voice of, what we're just not gonna, like, all the BS that we're just not gonna tolerate anymore. Because I'll tell you one thing, if life has taught me anything, is that a lot of these beliefs that teach us to doubt ourselves, that teach us to, and I've experienced this a lot in the spiritual community, you guys, not just about feminine and feminine energetics and all that, like manifestation, emotional, like tapping into your emotional, emotional awareness. There's a lot of judgment out there, and there's a lot of ideologies that are keeping us disempowered. The idea that we can't tap into and fully feel our emotions, this idea that we have to always be positive, always be in love and light, that we always have to be in gratitude and joy in order to manifest good thing. Bullshit. This thing that we always need to be able to forgive, and if we're not forgiving, then forgiveness is great when you're ready. You can't force it, because when you force it, you almost set yourself up to re-traumatize yourself. Okay. And this whole idea that, being angry is bad, setting boundaries is bad, you're a difficult person. If you're a feminist, you're an angry woman who's going to end up alone. A lonely cat lady. Fine. Buy me some cats. Fuck off. Like, listen, we can love. And this is where I think I want to leave this. We can absolutely be in unconditional love. And we can absolutely live with an open heart and still be angry. We can be in love and still call out bad behavior. We can be in love and be open-hearted and still be able to set healthy boundaries with people and say and be honest about what we will and won't tolerate from them. We can still be in love and an open heart and still just be able to discern who we give our time and our energy to and who we open ourselves up to and allow ourselves to be vulnerable. Both can coexist. We don't have to feel bad for being angry anymore. Angry is a very powerful emotion. It is a guide. It is a teacher. It is wisdom. We just need to learn how to work with it, right? I think the mistake that we've made with anger, all of us, men and women, is we've either suppressed it or projected it. So we've either like swallowed it and let it live inside of us somewhere and you know, tried to pretend that it didn't exist and it wasn't there when it actually really was, and it was creating a muck in our lives energetically. Been there, done that. Or we've projected it onto other people around it. We've taken it out on other people. We've spewed it in our relationships in our lives, saying and doing very damaging, hurtful things. Been there, done that too. What can I say? You know, but you know, what happens when we actually learn to harness the power of moving through that and allowing it to just be present and to do its work? Because I'm telling you, every emotion leads to alchemy if you let it. We just need to learn how to let it. Okay? So I'm just going to actually quickly take a peek of my notes here and see if there's anything that I've missed, because there's so much I wanted to say today. And I can only hope that I articulated that in a way that actually made sense, because I realized, like I said, a lot in a very short period of time. We jumped back and forth, but you know, and I will say this, you know, to the men, and I'm just seeing the notes right now, and I love this, you know, for one, well, not this part, but you know, for a woman who has been, like I said, assaulted, like physically assaulted, where I've been touched inappropriately or groped by somebody who, you know, did not have my permission to touch or grope me. From a woman who's been, you know, roofied, and, you know, not in control of her faculties. And thank God she had some, you know, good people around her that were like watching out for her, at the time. For a woman who has been inappropriately propositioned by the adults in the room when she was just a child, I can remember, actually, this is a funny story. Want to talk about feminine anger? So I think I was 11 years old at the time. And this friend of the family, who everyone seemed to like, it's always the one that everyone loves, you know, it's always the one that everyone loves, that is the most charismatic, that always makes women feel giddy. You know, it's always those, right? Who was like, I was 11 at the time. I think he was like, I don't know, 50, right? This older, hulky man who would always look at me like I was like, I don't know, a steak dinner, you know, at 11. And it made me so uncomfortable the way he looked at me. And I can remember, like, you know, being, because he was like a friend of the family, and I can remember, like, every time, you know, the family was like distracted or doing things, he would always like be touching me under the table or looking at me or doing like obscene things with his face and his mouth, and I want to vomit in my mouth still now when I think about it. Like, it was that offensive to me. And I can remember, oh my God, one time we had gone to the beach. We had a family beach day. And we were out there and we were swimming in the water. And, you know, all of a sudden, like, we're all out there, we're all swimming, we're all playing. And I was kind of, I don't know why, but I was kind of like separate from everyone else. I think I was looking at something in the water, or I don't know. Anyway, but either way, I was kind of like, my family was all like all over there, and I was kind of off in my own direction. And all of a sudden, I feel like something grabbed me under the water, and he literally like grabbed my thighs and started like stroking his hand upward. I kid you not, this big, beastly, like hulky man, like 50-year-old, big belly, probably at least like maybe like 5'11", maybe 6 feet, big, huge man. And this little 11-year-old girl, he's underwater, like basically trying to like grope me and moving towards my crotch. I, at this point, have had it, because nobody's believing me. Like, I don't like the way this guy's touching me. And what did I do? Oh, did my masculine step up to the plate? Because that little 11-year-old girl, he was underwater. He had his head underwater. That little 11-year-old girl grabbed his head, actually grabbed him by the throat. Oh my God, I can't believe I did this. Grabbed him by the throat and started holding his head underwater, because I was filled with so much rage and anger. And then I thank God my family was like close by and they like literally like pried me off of him. But like it took like 5 or 6 people to pry me off of him and like get him to let him go. And my cousins were big dudes at the time, like they were pretty strong. And it took 5 of them to like pry me off of this man. And so that he can kind of get up above water and breathe again. And let me tell you, he never fucking touched me again. Ever after that. Now, he wasn't the last person to make an attempt. That wasn't the last, time I had to deal with, people touching me inappropriately or, inappropriate propositions or anything like that in the workplace and social environments or whatever. And, I had a long journey of experiences like that from the time that I was 11 years old till right up until, my corporate job a few years ago where, it was evidently clear that, somebody that I was working for had other interests in me other than just my work. Right. And it created a very uncomfortable situation for me. And so, I say all this to say, I literally had to step into my masculine in that moment because nobody was creating a safe space for me. And so I had to create that safe space for myself. And the reality is that, even though I've done a lot of healing around this, and that's why I'm able to talk about this so lightheartedly. I'm not in a position to talk about this in a lighthearted way. If I hadn't done the work on a lot of these incidences that have happened to me in my life, repeatedly. But, the reality is we still live in a world that is unsafe for women. And so, I still walk home with my keys clutched in my knuckles in case I have to hit somebody. I still check the backseat of my car before I get into it. I still pick up my phone and pretend to talk to somebody on the phone when I'm walking through a dark path or whatever and I don't feel safe at night and I see somebody around me. Sometimes even in the daytime, if I see someone around me who I get like a weird vibe from, I'll pick up my phone and start pretending that I'm talking to somebody on the phone. Like I still have to do these things. And that's because we have failed to create a world that is safe for women. We still have a lot of work to do. And, calling us angry feminists for, screaming for our rights and setting our boundaries and trying to create a better world, a safer world for women, a more equal world for women. It's like, dude, maybe you need to do some healing. Like maybe it's your turn to do some of the healing that you keep pushing on women. That's maybe a little bit, right? Because the reality is that, we shouldn't have to put our keys in our knuckles or pick up our phone or, check our backseat of our car. Or the worst part is texting your friend to let them know you're going out on a blind date and this is where you're going and this is the person's profile and their name and where you found them, just in case you happen to go missing the next day. You know what I mean? Like, these are really real things. And again, even the whole, the inequality in pay, the fact that, so many of our rights are being taken away depending on where you live as women, we still have work to do. We're not done. So if they're going to call us angry feminists, fine. But the reality is we're not going to feel bad for fighting for something that we as all humans should have access to. And it is actually our feminine that is begging for this. It is actually our feminine that is begging for the safe container so that she could fully relax and rest and be in her creative mastery, in her emotional mastery, right? Her divine intelligence, her magic. She wants this. So let's create it. We have to create a world that is safer for all of us. And that includes creating a world that is safer for men to be in their feminine energy because they haven't felt safe either. And I think, to say that this narrative that the key to healing the relationship and life and family is to put women back in the home and be submissive. I mean, I that is how we keep society, not women, but society, in a disempowered state, men and women alike. Because the reality is that, like I said, we have so much creative power and energy as women, and there are so many things that we can do. Yes, we can birth amazing children and we can raise amazing families, but for many of us, the path is very different. For me, that took a lot of healing. I wanted children. I've always wanted children, but it never happened for me. And for years, I was bitter and resentful about this. But now I realize, you know what? Life was just meant to take me down a different path. And I couldn't have gone down that path if I had children. And there's so many women out there who want children so desperately, who can't have them. What are they like? Do they not hold a place in society? Like, there's just so many things where we try to make things black and white, and they're not. We're so much more than that. And we carry so much more power and wisdom and creation than that. And the more that we continue to oppress women and the feminine, the real feminine, not the feminine that, that is being shoved on our throats right now to serve a patriarchal agenda, but the real feminine power. And if if you want to harness some of those skills, go back and check the first part of this series where I talked about the 9 sacred feminine superpowers that are literally going to make you powerful and magnetic as fuck. I'm not even joking. Within minutes of doing some of those practices. Okay. I really believe that we're doing all of us an injustice if we don't create a safe space for that to flourish in all of us. And it's not like, again, it's not this picture that we're being fed by a patriarchal agenda that keeps us in a disempowered state, men and women. It's actually coming into balance and harmonizing the masculine and feminine within each of us that makes us powerful and unstoppable. And they don't want you to know that. Because how would they control you if you did? They couldn't. So keep leaning in. The fact that the patriarchy is getting more aggressive, the fact that they're getting more offensive with how much, the lengths that they're going to push these ideologies onto us, is proof that they are getting nervous. So do not stop. Do not stop. I don't care if they call you an angry feminist, a lonely cat lady. I don't care. Keep going. Okay? Yes, there are fucking amazing men out there who are fully capable of being in their hearts and expressing emotion and being in their feeling in their emotional body and connecting on such a deep level. And then there are others who aren't. And that's fine, because what we're doing is creating a safe world for the feminine to thrive in men and women and non-binary and all people in general. It's time that we let the feminine out of the box. It's time that we let Pandora out of the box so that she can work some magic in this world, because the world needs magic. And that only starts when we start to balance those energies within ourselves. So use your masculine, but also use and harness the power of your feminine, and try to use both these sides of you. So the feminine is, and we'll talk more about this. The feminine is, the feeling, the intuition, the emotional, the creative energy. And then the masculine is the physical, the thought, the logic, the strategy, right? The hunter, the gatherer, right? So use both to your advantage. Be comfortable being in both. That is when you tap into your power. And as you start to do that, more and more people, we're literally we're creating what's it called? We're creating a movement that starts with each and every one of us individually. We can't teach people how to be, I mean, we can share what we're doing and how we're learning, like I'm doing with you guys, but it's up to you if you want to follow what I'm doing. I'm just over here trying to balance these energies within me, right? And I'm sharing with you how I'm doing it. And the 9 practices I shared last week, totally life-changing for me. So have a look at those. The link is in the show notes. You can sign up to get the entire playlist, the journal prompts, and the affirmations. And I will see you guys here next week not next week, later this week, because I think this is going live on Monday. So there'll be another episode out on Thursday. That is all for now, you guys. Until next time, massive love.